halfway understood this to this point, these word problems are actually the nicest ones of the day. Because this is exactly a question from the sample state test questions, except I changed it from Facebook to loser book. The one you actually have in the homework is exactly what they have worded. So, the following function describes the stock price for loser book where M stands for the number of months since February of 2020. Use technology to graph and create tables as needed. So, just remember, when we do this in Desmos, if we decide to sketch the graph of this, whether we sketch it or not, just make sure to change every instance of M to an X. And well, we're going to see what this looks like. I'm going to type it in Desmos and get it to look good and then put it up on the screen. But if I did it on a computer, it would be so much nicer. Now, I guess one more thing before I put it on the screen, you do have to understand that the formula we have is y equals a times sine of bx plus h. So this number 41 is your h. So you also want to type in y equals 41 to get the second piece so we can see where it exactly is in the middle. So I got both pieces graphed in, and if I kind of zoom in, I can maybe get more of a visualization of what the graph is doing. So what's going on here is the graph is starting here at 0.41. So interpreting 41 in the context of the problem, the beginning of time in the problem is February of 2020. So it's pretty much saying the 41 is the stock price in February of 2020 in context of this problem. What does the negative 15 mean in context of the problem? Well, if we look at the fact that it's negative, and negative is, the 15 is not the amplitude, but the fact it's negative means it goes down before it gets higher again. So what does the negative 15 mean in the context of the problem? The negative 15 means the stock goes down. $15 first before improving. And the other thing about the negative 15 is the value does not go higher or below 15 away from 41. Because if we look at this picture, the highest is 56. That's 15 away. There's your radius going up. The 26 is your radius going down. 41 minus 15 is 26. How long does it take for the pattern to start repeating? Well, let me get off. The reason we put that middle line is, there it is. Then we go, this is where it starts. So by looking at the graph, how long does it take to repeat? It would be 8 months. Or if you wanted to do it by hand, remember, period is equal to 2 pi divided by b. So in this case, we would do 2 pi divided by pi over 4. The pi's would cancel, and we would end up doing 2 divided by 1/4, and we get 8. So you could either look at the graph and figure out that it's 8, or you could use the period formula. So this is the type of problem when the idea of when in doubt, graph it out does a good job. Anyway, let's look at the best question ever made. The stink bug question. Wish I could take credit. No, I'm glad I can't take credit for this. So a stink bug has crawled into a box fan and sits on the tip of the blade on the fan seen below, and there's the one at standard position. The fan starts to turn slowly due to a breeze in the room. There's a creative function that describes the change in height from its original position based off the angle of the blade. Well, the radius of this blade is equal to 1. And something that we talked about earlier is radius is actually equal to whatever your amplitude should be. So the formula, we would have y is equal, well, the amplitude is the radius, so the amplitude would equal 1 in this case, so it would be 1 sine of x. Or to simplify it even more, it would just be y is equal to the sine of x. So we're going to talk about how we can do 13 and 14 two different ways. I'm going to do it the long way first, but then if you watch what I do in the video, you'll see the short way. So what is the height of the stink bug when the blade is rotated 3 radians? Now this goes to what we did on the previous assignment. We can use our calculator. Make sure we're in radian mode. I want to make sure my float's back to float. And we can literally just type in y would equal the sine of 2 as long as you're in, and I'm going to put a star next to it, radian mode. So we're going to round to 3 decimal places because that's beautiful. So the sine of 2 is 0.909. So y would equal 0.909. So it would be 909, and I guess to put it in better words, 0.909 feet. So just like we did yesterday, if it's rotated 5 pi over 3, we'll do y is equal to the sine, and we literally type in 5 pi over 3 since we're trying to get the full decimal answer. So we're going to type in sine of 5 pi over 3, and it's negative 0.866. And this would be negative 0.866 feet. Now for those who are observant, you may have noticed 5 pi over 3 is on the unit circle, and the sine of 5 pi over 3 is negative square root of 3 over 2. And look at what this would turn. Now this is just for people who may have noticed that. Interesting. Anyway, here's a lazier way we could have done this. Well, so I'm going to type in my function in Desmos. So there's the actual function in Desmos. And instead of typing the numbers each time, what I could do is click on the gear and do a table. And in the table, I can start putting in the values. So let's say I wanted to know what 2 was. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit closer. I would just type in 2. And bam, there's the y value, 0.909. Then for the 5 pi over 3, I haven't done this, so I hope it works. If I typed in 5 pi divided by 3, it gives me that. So you could either do it in the calculator, making sure you're in radian mode, or type it in the graph and look at a table. And now, here comes the best part of today's lesson. The last question, 15. How much has the blade rotated when the stink bug's height is negative 1/4? So really what's going on here is y is equal to sine of x. And this is question number 15 we're talking about. So what's going on is the negative 1/4 is in place of the y, so you really need to find the angle. So the best thing to do is to figure out this answer. You're actually going to use Desmos and type in the original y equals sine of x. And now you're going to type in y equals negative 1/4. You want to see that y value and where they cross. So, once again, Desmos, I choose you. So I'm going to type in the y equals sine of x. And then we're going to type in y equals negative 1/4. I'm going to zoom out to get a kind of a better picture. Now granted, you can't have the fan going less than 0, but if I click here, negative 1/4 is negative 0.25, so one spot it's below. One possible answer, the fan has rotated 0.394 radians. But if I go over here, if we could say 6.031 radians, and if I keep going, it keeps crossing in that spot, 9.677 radians, and this could continue forever. So this next question, can there be more than one answer? Yes. There is an infinite number of answers that could work for this. Remember, going back to what this graph actually represents, I better get this off here because you guys might see something I shouldn't let you guys see. That sounded worse than it should have. But anyways, remember, a graph is just the rotation of a circle. And man, has the memory on my phone gotten. But this rotation could keep going on and on forever. So since this graph goes on and on forever, that stink bug could be at so many different times where it has a height of negative 1/4. Well, anyways, that's it for the notes. Please enjoy the worksheet. I enjoyed it as much as you guys have. Have a good day.